Welcome to the Salty Sarge Podcast. You can find us on Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere else you subscribe to your favorite podcast. I am Hunter, and I'm joined today by the namesake himself, the Salty Sarge.
Yes, here we are in the house.
What's on your mind today, Salty?
Well, we're just talking about, we're reminiscing a lot on some of these episodes, if you will, about things I've done over the past. And one thing I'm a trainer, so I train lots of recruits. And we'll just talk about some stuff that I remember is when I first trained. Some of these recruits have been on the department now for several years, and just some funny stories of just what I see, how they make mistakes or things like that, or just calls that we come to. So one guy I used to work at Penn Square Mall, which is in town. I did that on the side. I would come into work. I'd work at the mall for security, and that was a whole nother bundle of fun. I mean, there's a lot
Penn
going
Square's
on at
a
that
fun
mall.
place.
There was a lot going on there. So I would come into work. Well, one night we had this. Every time that I was at Penn Square, and a lot of the stores wouldn't push the issue of making an arrest. Mm-hmm. I was at Penn Square Mall. This store was calling in saying, "Hey, there's a lady who's stealing," and then they said she put the stuff back and she's leaving now. So I looked at my partner, who I worked with on the street too. I was like, we need to go find this gal and just kind of like tell her, hey, you shouldn't steal.
Yeah.
So we follow her at the edge of the store, and she's kind of like, what's up? I go, you tell me. Like, I heard you're stealing here. You should be doing that. I said, are you here by yourself? What's your name? And we start checking her out, and she's got a warrant. She's got a big warrant, actually. She's got what we call a felony warrant.
Yeah.
So you can't let that person go. Like, you have to take them to jail. Mm-hmm. And so she leads us out to her car. She goes, that's my truck out there. And we get out the truck, and we check the tag. And it's a stolen truck.
Oh, no.
You're just like, it just piles on. And then you look in the center console, and there's a bag of meth. You're just like, wow, this gets better and better. So we're about to go to work. So my partner's like, what are we going to do? And I said, hey, I'll just take her to the station, and we'll just have the rookie book her in. Now, mind you, he's coming in. He's never met me before. Mm-hmm. So we get to the station. I bring her in, and people are like, he's looking at me like, what is this guy doing? So I put her in the break room. And I said, hey, we're going to jail right after we break lineup. Like, we're just going to take this girl. And he goes, really? And I said, yeah. He goes, wow, I've never had an FTO bring me like an arrest. I was like, well, I'm a different kind of FTO. So, and I asked him, I go, what's your, every time I get with a rookie, my goal is like, what are your goals here? Like, what do you want to do? Mm-hmm. This particular one was like, well, I want to catch bad guys and, and get into some drugs and stuff. And at that time, everything was still like a felonious crime. It was a felony to possess any kind of, besides marijuana.
Yeah.
To possess any kind of like illegal substance that today is not. So, and he was terrible about his geographic. Like, he couldn't find anything. So I'd give him addresses of where there was like known drugs and stuff like that. So we're driving along, and there was a place on the east side that was a hotel, a small hotel that was called the Relax Inn. Okay, we'll just put it out there. That's what it was called, the Relax Inn.
That just sounds like a drug hotel.
Oh, yeah. So, oh, man, there's so much going on at that hotel at that time. A lot of good stories will come up with this hotel. Like, this is a key place of my career, just because I went there so often just dealing with stuff. So we're driving along, and as he passes, he misses every rookie messes up all the time. He drives completely past the address, and as we're driving by, I look and I see a truck sitting parked, and I could see this is how good my vision is. I'm not saying I'm the best, awesome finding cop out there, but everybody will tell you when they're around me, I see things that nobody else sees.
Yeah.
And my wife would always say, like, how did you see that? So I'm driving along, and I remember seeing the car was off, but I could see the light in the clock on the radio. I could see that lighted up. I was like, there's someone in that truck. And it was back then, it was an old Chevy pickup, and it was white. And I could see as we drove by, because my dad had one same model, like a 90s model, right? Yeah. And it had that white thing on, so I knew someone was in that truck. So I told him, I said, well, you done screwed that up. You drove completely past the address, but hey, we'll park up here. And there was an old gas station that was vacant right next to that hotel. Yeah. And you could kind of walk down the hill and sneak up on this truck. So I said, we're going to sneak up on this truck. There's someone in there. He's like, are you sure? Are you sure? They always question you. I'm like, dude, just trust me. Mm-hmm. There's someone in there, and there's probably going to be drugs in there. So we go sneaky peeking up by it. We get beside it, and as we're approaching it, We come up on the side, and there's a dude in there, and I don't know what he's doing, because this is like the smartphones are there, people are doing stuff, but the internet's not really on the smartphone as much as it is now. You know, things were slower, but I don't know what he's doing on his phone, but he's doing something. And there weren't like TikTok didn't even exist then. It was barely Facebook at that time. So he gets up next to the car, and the guy like has this panic look on his face, and we're just like, hey, we're the police, what are you doing? I'm like, you staying here? No. Like, oh, and he opens the door up, and it was just Pandora's box of drugs just everywhere. And about that time, he leans forward like to reach under the seat. And I'm like, my rookie just like kind of freaks out a little bit, like everyone should, pulls his gun out. And I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm like, what are you doing? You know, I grab him. He goes, he's going for a gun. I'm like, hang on, no, he's not. And then I look in, and this happened real quick, because I'm like, holy crap, he does have a gun. I'm like, okay, you can shoot him now. I was like, okay, you can shoot. And then the guy's like, no. And I was like, and we drag him out of the car, and he had a small pistol that he was going to pull on us and shoot us.
Oh, wow.
And a bunch of drugs. And, you know, my rookie's like, how in the world did you see that? Like, how'd you know? I'm like, dude, it's the area we're in. And two, I mean, I could just see that light. And I had a feeling something was up. But I said, but you almost gave us away by driving past it, you know, and everything else. But, you know, things like that, you know, recruits tend to make mistakes. But they'll always go and they'll tell their buddies like a story, because we're in a briefing, and he's like, yeah, man, you know, we did, everybody's bragging, like they didn't really get anything. Like he's bragging with his other rookie buddies, like, he's like, yeah, you know, his buddy's like, yeah, we didn't really do much, took a couple calls. I'm like, you not telling about the gun you got, and like the bad guy that we almost fought, you almost shot him? And he's like, oh yeah, that too. And of course all the other rookies are like, whoa, man, like really, what'd you do? And I was like, yeah, you should probably tell him about that. That was a cool story.
Yeah.
I was like, you have to do real police work.
Everybody else did
and
traffic.
Every time from that point on, like we went to jail on so much stuff. Like we were busy all the time.
Yeah.
And one night we're cruising the same work. Actually, it was that same day we worked part of the shift, because we came in early. And there's someone said there's a car, it's driving on rims, and there's sparks everywhere down the street. So we get over there, and there's sure enough, there he is. He's crashed out in front of this building. And he is so drunk, and he stinks so bad, because he was so drunk, he might have like did something in his pants. And the guy is in the back. We put him in the back seat, and I'll never forget, we arrest him. We impound his car, and I'm like, oh, I can't take the smell. The smell is horrific. And the guy in the back seat, he's laid down, and he's like going, what?
Oh, no.
My partner is just like holding it in. And I'm laughing hysterically. And we both are like, it smelled so bad because he kept doing that in his pants. We're driving down the road. And
you got the head out the window like a dog.
Like Ace Ventura, you know, he's just like, oh, buddy. We're cruising. No. I actually called someone to come get me. To drive me. I called my buddy Bully. I said, hey, come pick me up. We'll follow him to jail. And that rookie had his head out the window, and he's just like,
you made the rookie drive.
Oh, man.
Oh, no.
I couldn't even. I was like, hey, I might get in trouble with this, but you're driving to jail. I mean, we got halfway to jail. I said, pull over. I'm like, I can't take this anymore. And that guy smells so bad. Oh, it's horrible.
So what do you do after that? Like what?
So, well, I mean, he didn't soil in the car, luckily.
Okay.
So you just let it air out, and then there's a spray that IMSA, the ambulances, would carry.
Yeah. And
they'd have these, we called them they were baby killer wipes. So like what that meant is they had a thing on the side of them. It had a baby.
Yeah.
And really extra, like you don't wipe a baby's butt on it because it will kill it. It's like antibacterial wipes on steroids. And we call them like baby killer wipes. That's what they call them. I mean, it's like, don't put them on a baby, because they had that picture of that baby on there.
Yes.
So I'll go up to Instagram. Hey, can I get some baby killer wipes? Like, oh yeah, here's the 2-1. They knew exactly what you were talking about. Mm-hmm. So you would use those to wipe down your car. This is way pre-COVID, so they're intense ones, and they would give a whiff of like, holy crap, like these are good stuff.
Is it a better or a good smell or a bad smell?
Well, it's real strong.
Oh, okay. Like an ammonia.
Yeah, like a hospital deal. Like hospitals use them. I mean, it's real intense. So that's how you clean your car. And then a lot of times, back in the day, they had trustees at the jail, and you would send them out, and they'd clean the car up for you too a lot of times. But you'd have moments like that where that just happened. I mean, some people can't. Well, that guy was that drunk, though. I mean, he was so drunk that he couldn't keep it in. But it was so funny. I was laughing so hard watching that rookie hold his head out the window. You know? And
that poor dude.
So me and that rookie, I'll let her find. He has a lot of respect for me because we went to driving, and I had put in for a position that he's in now. He's over in schools, and I had put in, and he told everybody, like, he's real good. He was my FTO. Like, I mean, he's a good police officer, and he taught me a lot. And I enjoyed, he ended up in the same division I was in on a different shift. But, you know, it was nice when you train with these guys. You know, I always tell people that, you know, they may be your partner. I mean, these guys might be your partner someday. So moving on, I had a recruit, one of my first recruits I trained, became my partner. They call them primaries. So if you get someone that's like in first phase, there's 4 phases, and he was my primary, and he was a really good. His dad was a police officer, so he wasn't naive to the fact of police work.
Yeah.
But his dad was like a really good dude, there was nothing ill about his dad, you could say.
Yeah.
So he, a real good family life. And he was real into music, and he's still in an apartment. He's a really good police officer. He played the drums and stuff, and yeah, someone's, you know, we're in a bar. That's what happens. You crack a beer. Yeah.
Beer's cracking a bar.
Yeah, someone's cracking a beer already on a Sunday night, you know, on this night. So no big deal. So, you know, we'll get there in a minute for some of us. But anyway, so this rookie, had a lot of fun. He was real receptive on what we were doing. He was smart. He picked up on things, and he kind of fed off my comedy, you know, on different calls. And so we take this one call, and we always went to this house, and it was a house full of, there's 2 old people that when you walked in, the first smell you got was awful. And I never really got past the parts of the house until you go to this house so many times that it was like layers. You go to one room where the old people are at, and they're in these beds, right? And if you imagine, you know, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, you know, the old people are sleeping in the beds, right? That's what it was like. There's like 3 or 4 of them in these beds, and they're just like bedridden, and they won't get up. And they're the nicest people, though. They were sweet and nice, and so their kids took care of them. And there's this old guy in there, and he was, so, you know, when I use a term here, we call him SIG-8. So that's like a mental health. This guy just, I don't know what he was diagnosed with, but he just wasn't there sometimes.
Yeah.
But he would call us about, you know, he saw aliens or he saw something weird. So we go to the house, and of course the 2 parents are in there, and they're just in the beds just laughing. And it was funny. Well, we go to the house so much that we get there, and he told us he was a music minister at one time. And I said, okay, well, you know, show us what you can do. And about that time, this really, really old dude comes out of this room, and he's kind of walking up real slow like, and we're like, where did you come from? He's blind.
Oh.
Because we go back in this room, and there's like this 1980s big screen television, okay? You remember like the magnifying with the projectors in it?
Yeah, yes.
It's in this room, and he's like right up against it. And we're like, what you doing? He's like, hey, what's up, y'all? And he comes around the corner. And so the son says he can play the piano, and I said, we'll prove it. So he starts playing the piano. Dude, he is jamming it out like Ray Charles' brother.
Oh, wow.
Like tearing it up. The brother starts singing. Like, it's like a blues festival in this house, and we're laughing, and he's just like, oh, yeah, just getting into it, singing. Oh, my God. So then my rookie, he jumps on the piano, starts playing with this guy. They're doing like a little concert, and then this older guy, and they're just ad-libbing. Like, there's a certain technique it's called. I saw a video on it once, and a guy got a Grammy for it. It's some kind of blues technique where they just, you only get one recording because they do it right off the top of their head then, and it's just, they come up with something. It's a type of music. This guy could do that, and he was going to town. I mean, it was so cool, and we're laughing and leaving, and it kind of changed my whole perspective about those people at that call, because every time we go, they're like, we are there all the time. Once we pulled up the music, it calmed them down, and it changed the whole perspective of the call. Now, this is before 988 and all this other, like, all these mental health stuff that they have now. This was just us coming in there and just ad-libbing, if you will. I was making a joke out of it. I was having fun.
Yeah.
And it turned out to be a good thing for them. And every time we go the house, we'd ask him, like, hey, why don't you play some music? And he'd get on the piano and tear it up, and here comes his brother. His blind brother came in there, and just tear it up. But that was a fun time with that officer. I really enjoyed the calls with him. We later become partners, and we become partners because my other buddies, they transferred out and left and went to another part of the city, and so I stayed. And I just felt like I wasn't ready to leave yet, and I'm not up to change. At that point, I wasn't. I just wasn't ready to change, and I'm glad I did because I moved out of there, but I'd still be there today, I guess, if I didn't move. But we take this domestic call, and I'll never forget it because there's an older lady. She's like probably she looked like she didn't look very old, but she was real petite.
Yeah.
And then I get there, and of course my partner's with me, and he's newer. He's pretty new. He's on his own. He's not with my car anymore, but he's my partner. I'm a district partner.
Yeah.
So we go walking up, and there's a guy standing there, and he's got a full arm, and he's got like half a little arm. It's like a nub on the end, like a couple little like nubs,
Yeah.
And he's pointing, and I'm already thinking, oh great, here we go. This is gonna be fun. This is gonna be a fun call. So he's up there, and it was a domestic between brothers, I thought. So we get inside, because this guy's younger, okay? And you ever seen, Hank Hill? What's that? King of the Hill?
King of the Hill, yeah.
Yeah, Boomhauer.
Yeah.
Right, so this guy talks a lot.
Talk like him.
Yeah, Dano, man, he's over there, man. I'm just like, oh, man, this is great. Like, I can't make this up. Like, here we are live. And you got this older lady, and she's over here just like, my sons are not getting along, and I'm like, oh, okay. Well, she said son, actually, not sons. So this guy's probably, he's younger. He's probably like in his 20s, bro.
Oh, wow.
This gal's probably in her late 60s, right? So she goes, yeah, my son's inside. They're not getting along. So we go inside, and the house smelled so bad, dude. It was horrific. But I do remember walking to the kitchen, and along the door frame was... those little pine trees that you put in your cars?
Oh, yeah.
Hundreds of them, stapled to the frame around this door. And I'm just like, oh, wow. Like, what's up with that? So I knock on the door, and the door opens. And you remember Ben Stiller whenever he was in that movie where he was like a model, but he was an idiot?
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Zoolander.
Yes. Zoolander standing there looking at me, okay? And I went, oh, snap. And he's like, how's it going? He goes, come in here quick. We need to get away from this horrific smell. And it was every kind of deodorizer for the air known to man in this little room of his. It was like a detached garage.
At least he was aware.
Oh, yeah. He's like, yeah, it stinks. He was just constantly telling him, like, y'all stink. And he shuts the door. And I go, hey, man, how come you're not getting along with your brother? And he goes, excuse me, sir? Let me stop you right there. That is not my brother. And I was like, oh. I go, what's going on? He goes, that's my mom's boyfriend. I was like, oh, the plot thickens. Of course now. Of course, I'm intrigued by this. And I don't just like, hey, what's going on? I don't do the cop thing like, okay, well, I'll tell you what happened. No, I went like, oh, interesting. Like, how did that come to be? You know what I mean? I want the Ricky Lake version, the drama of it all. So the Jerry Springer, because that's what I was thinking of.
Hold on, let me go get popcorn. I'll be right back.
Like, this is Jerry Springer moment. And of course, my partner, he's looking at me like he's just feeding off of me. He's just he's a funny, sense of humor guy too. But I don't care. I'm just there to have fun because there was no crime. So he's telling me, and they're fighting over Xbox controllers. That's what they're fighting over. Now, this guy's probably like 25, 26. The other guy's probably 22. And he's like, yeah, so we end up outside because of the smell. And he goes, yeah, let's go. Because I was like, I got to get this off my uniform. We need to get outside.
Yeah.
And we get outside. That's kind of when he tells me, like, that's not my brother. That's my... And I just look at him like, oh, man. And they kind of start getting into it again. And he's like, man, how cool. Talking to him. And he's yelling. And I literally stop and I go, Boomhauer, you'll get your chance, right? And he stops. And he looks at me and he acknowledges the fact that he is Boomhauer. He's like, oh, yeah, Dano, cool, man. He stops. And the other guy, so my partner is standing next to me and he goes, oh. He's laughing out loud. He turns away and runs from the call. He loses all composure. And I started laughing. So I'm laughing so hard. And this guy imagine, like, Zoolander just looking at you like, once again, like, you're not taking me serious, sir, because that's what he tells me. You're not taking this serious. I go, are you kidding me right now? Like, you got this guy who's like, what are you, like 18? He's like, Dano, man, yeah, I know. And she's like, what, 70? I'm like, high five with the little hand, and he's kind of dominating around. And then you got Zoolander. I go, look at you, man. You guys are fighting. I just, oh, man, I was laughing. My partner, he left. He got in his car. Like, he was laughing. He could not.
He couldn't come back.
We went to OnQ and had a soda. He was still laughing. He's like, God, I couldn't take it, man. I just couldn't take you on that call. And I just was like, why are we even here? And oh, man.
What was the conclusion of that call?
I just, like, you guys are fighting over a damn
Xbox controller?
Yeah, he was mainly mad because his mom is with some 20-year-old kid. And, oh, man, I'll just never forget that nub just kind of like pointing, like, he's over there, and he's just laughing. And
oh, my gosh.
Oh, man, when he said Boomhauer, when I just said, okay, Boomhauer, and he's just like, oh, everybody gets quiet. He didn't knew right then. He starts laughing, too. And then that's my Ricky. My partner had lost it. He's like, oh, my God. He goes, I can't work with you. I was like, well, you're going to have to get better at it because I don't hold back. Because, what my thing is, dude, I've watched a lot of cop episodes and a lot of episodes of like, they're like, hey, come over here, how come they're like robots. I'm not a robot, okay? That's the first thing I'm not. I will talk to people. Driving down the road today, I had this urge to like just yell like a, like go, like a scream at some of these homeless people, they're just standing there and I go, and I said, I'll get you, my pretty. They just kind of stop believing. They start laughing like, this guy's nuts. And I'll take off. I don't know. I just, if I ever get out there in the public, as far as like someone sees me, I'd rather them go, that's that crazy cop. He's a cool, If
he likes to make everybody laugh.
I'm not saying I'm not trying to have a moral, but like if anything ever happens to me, in my face, if I'm ever killed in the line of duty and someone sees my picture, they go, you know what, that cop, he was such a funny guy. He was a nice guy. He told me, cheer up that day or made my day better. I will always try to be that person to where I'm not rude to people as far as like, I'll acknowledge you at the store. If you joke with me, say, hey, like a guy on Q today was like, my wife says I stink, she wants me to have arrested, and I was like, hey, how about we tase her like real quick? And he's like, for real? I was like, yeah, let's tase her right now. She's like, looking at me like, are you serious? I'm like, yeah, I heard it's a good time. Just try, by spicing things up. And they're just looking at me like, you're a funny cop. Like, you're a funny guy. And that's just what, I think there's too many posters out there of officers that are too serious. There's a time to be serious. I get that.
Yeah.
But, I just see the humor in things and I might get in trouble. I don't know. I'm not saying I would go around, joke around on someone's death. I don't feed off of that, but I do feed off some calls because I look at people and go, wow, like you exist.
Well, and some of them are just that ridiculous.
Yes.
Like,
it's
why did you call the police? So,
yeah, exactly. Because you come out here where we live and no one calls the police for anything.
No.
Right? And oftentimes I get apologized to. Like, hey, I'm really sorry I didn't mean to call you because, this is not really a police thing. I'm like, don't apologize. Like, you actually got victimized by somebody. Like, you got broke into. Half the calls I go to, if you only knew. I start calling in about, it's just ridiculous, because, he doesn't respect me and he makes fun of me. I'm like, okay, well, I don't know what to tell you about that. Like, that's, and my thing is, I wasn't trained for that.
Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't trained. I can tell you this right now. The police academy did not prepare me for those kind of calls or anything like that for that matter. I didn't know that I was going to have to go take a snake out of someone's house. Yeah. I did not want to do that. I didn't want anything to do with it. I didn't want to mess with it. I go, that's not my job. Yeah. I don't want to get a snake. I'm not a snake police officer.
It's just somebody who didn't want to do it. So they said, hey, let's
call
make
the police. I'm like, you need to call animal control. That's their job. Well, you can't get a snake out of us. I'm not dealing with a snake. Or people will say, come get my kid. I can't deal with my kid. Come get my kid. I'm just like, that's your kid, not mine. But, it's just you can't prepare yourself mentally. I had no idea. And it's just funny to me. Like some of these situations they're a lot of fun and you have to see the humor in it. Mm-hmm. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful or making fun of anybody. It was just a moment that I was in and it kind of killed the call. Mm-hmm. If you think about it, like whenever everybody's standing there laughing,
Yeah.
You know?
There was no fighting going on because they were too busy laughing.
So one moment we get a call, like, everybody, when I worked night shift, it was everybody. The one thing that's different about day shift and night shift is that I got tired of was the alcohol. Okay. Yeah. Everybody on night shift is drunk.
Yes.
That you go to. 9 times out of 10, you get there and they're drunk off their butt, right? And they make stupid decisions and you have to clean up the mess. Day shift, it's like people going to work. You know, my stuff got broke into, or there's a homeless person that I want off the property. You know, simple calls like that. Nothing too wild and crazy, but there are some crazy stuff out there. But took this one call, big group of people at this house, and they're all hammered.
Oh, man.
And so me and my partner go in there, and I just, I look at things in the house, and I like to see pictures, and, and I'm like, hey, who's that? I don't really focus on their problem. This guy's telling me this whole story. He's drunk, and he's telling me this whole story, and I'm like, hey, who's that in that picture? And he's like, well, and during the story, he goes, oh, that's my mom. And then he just goes back to the story, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So I'm trying to distract him, but it's not working.
Yeah.
So they're playing music. There's a music box on the ground, and there's like, music box on me by that. It's this is before like Bluetooth crap, okay?
Yeah.
I'm trying to date myself again, but it's like a boom box, right?
Okay.
And they're playing like Whitney Houston stuff. Yeah. So they're starting to get heated again. They're fighting over something that happened or someone said, these different friends and family. They're all drunk. They're all fighting about something. So about that time, I'm hearing Whitney Houston, I'll Always Love You. Mm-hmm. That song, right?
Yeah.
So my partner's with me again, who I want to get on this show because I feel like he could verify some of these stories, but people don't believe that I'm making this up. Or he just has stuff that I don't remember, and he was a lot of fun to work with. And I do have a lot of respect for him as a police officer. But anyway, so he's there with me, and we got issued these batons that aren't like the normal batons or nightsticks that old school cops carry. Mm-hmm. It's got like a tip on it, and it's like a small tip. It extends out. It's expandable.
Oh, like the telescoping?
Yeah, it's expandable and it has a tip on it, and I always use it for a microphone. You remember how like Bob, the Price is Right?
Price is Right, where he's got the little bill. Yeah,
I was with it. I would go, hey everybody, what do we got here? And I just kind of play with it. So I'm standing there and I whip that thing out, and the song is on, and it's like that moment in the song where it like stops. It goes doo-doo-sh, and so I have this song and I turn it up and I said, everybody, and everybody in that house is singing the song, including my partner. We're just like, and we're just and we're singing through the whole song, and everybody's happy, and it gets over, and I turn it off and I go, are we good here? And everybody's like, yes, sir, we're good here, and everybody's happy again, and we leave. So that was the night that you got to improvise, okay? Mm-hmm. I mean, was there a crime? I don't even know if there was a crime. I don't even remember that part. I just remember turning on that song and everybody was happy. So, and there's a rumor out there that I prevented a gang fight based on a dance-off, the Dougie, okay? And that's a whole nother story.
That sounds like straight out of a movie.
That happened too in the middle of the street, and I danced my ass off and won, and it prevented a fight. That's a whole nother episode. That's a whole nother story. But
we'll get there.
That was a good time too. But I mean that moment, it was so funny because I'll never forget that song. And we're singing because I turned it up. I go, wait, everybody, and I turn it up, and that's when I whipped that thing. And I'm like, it was so great, and it killed the call. I mean, and everybody's laughing, and my partner watched that and goes, I can't believe we just did that. And I'm like, yeah, you can. I mean, dude, that's what we're about. And he's like, you're right. That was fun. That was a good time. So we were always known to, goof off, and that same, oh man, like it went on and on and on, and that just different calls throughout the years of. There was a time span there I was at Eastside Cop for about 8 years.
Yeah.
On third shift. So that happened quite a bit. Like, I'm not saying Super Trooper moments because I'd seen Super Troopers, but wasn't like that. It was just having fun. I mean, it was just pure fun. And
diffusing situations.
Nobody got hurt. And I felt like that was a way of, that term they use now, the de-escalation. Oh my God. So it de-escalated a lot of things. So we were doing de-escalation long before that existed, before the government made a turn out of it. And we were doing it long before that. So we had a lot of calls we did that on. And I'm sure, I hope and pray in my mind that those people out there are telling those stories, like, hey, we had this cop sing to us on this call, that to me that'd be funny because it wasn't one of like a tick. Everybody now has like video or TikTok.
Yeah, everybody pulls out their phone when something funny happens.
It was just live, like I said, it was live and it was happening and it was fun.
Yeah,
and that's where you just can't make it up, and it was just fun. It was a lot of fun. So I think we should take a break real quick. What do you think?
I think so too.
All right.
And we're back at the Salty Sarge Podcast. We're in the Salty Sarge Lounge, enjoying a couple of drinks. And really the one question I just had, because I'd like to get more into understanding how your job works. So you, of course, are FTO. You do a lot of training. You get a lot of rookies in, and they're in the car with you. And then you've also talked about having partners as well. Is this a matter of they're riding with you? Is it two of you to a car? Is it two separate people, same area? How does partnership work?
So when you're a part of the FTO program, you're not considered partners, even though you are together. The rookie is technically you're kind of an advisor. You're making sure that they're doing the job safely and making decisions. They're supposed to be doing it solely on their own.
Yeah,
and you're kind of invisible, even though in reality you're sitting right next to them. So you want to try to not have as much input unless you need to. Now, when you're riding partners, so what I mean by partner is in our department, you're strictly solo. You're responsible for you. We don't have a partnership like they would in New York or Chicago.
Yeah. Like
major cities would have partners and stuff. Now, sometimes, like when I went to Houston one time, they ride partners too in certain areas, just for safety reasons.
Yeah.
You're considered a solo officer, and you are to deal. The way you're trained is to deal with the problem by yourself. Now, when you're working, you have what's called districts, okay, and sectors. And your district, like I work in an area that I take calls from, so that's my area, and I have a district partner that we may go on calls together, we might not. Now, I have sector partners that I might go over to their area and help them on a call, which we back each other. I mean, if it's a priority call or, you feel like, hey, this is not a good situation, or you get a bad Bible on the call, you should go back them. And that's your partnership. If you work some kind of programs where you're working overtime, you ride in the same car and your partners, you're equal. So you may have experience like the other guy, or a little bit more or a little bit less. And you guys just handle stuff together. A lot of times when I worked partners with my buddy Bully, we would go and I'd do the paperwork. He'd book him in jail, or, he might write the ticket. I might do paperwork. I mean, it just kind of flip-flopped, it's one of those things where you're a partnership. It's different from as an FTO, because the FTO is not really supposed to do a lot. We're supposed to just sit there, monitor what they're doing. And as they get through phases, I mean, I'll help out.
Yeah.
Because I get tired of waiting. I'm like, okay, I hear you. I'll help you knock this out, knock this out. But things have changed so much because we went, we've basically gone paperless, if you will. So a lot of times they can speed up the process just by doing it. But I can help them, by just staying in the car, or, hey, I'm going to book your prisoner in while you're in the car doing your report. Things like that. So it's just, it's different when you're an FTO, but once you get out of there, sometimes you may have cars that break. Like I had a car that broke, so I didn't have anybody to ride. I didn't have a car. So I just rode partners with somebody. Or, sometimes our command would be like, hey, we want you guys to ride special assignment. You ride partners and just go have fun. And that means go stop cars, go get into stuff. And that's what we do. And we would ride an unmarked car, and we would sneak up on people, or we would go stop cars, run radar, or whatever. And we had a good time. So those are kind of the differences there. Some units you have a partner where you ride and there's a driver. And I was always a driver. I like to drive because I see things. So I had to go certain areas. I had to go. And when I'm driving, when I'm riding with a rookie, it's so frustrating because when they make a turnaround, it's just like watching your grandma do it, and it's like, God, you're terrible at this. Or I want to go that way, or I want to go over there, and you're trying to direct them, and they won't go that direction because you're like, I wish I was driving, and then sometimes through the program, when you get to a certain level to where they're pretty much done, and I'm just like, okay, I'm tired of your driving, I'm going to drive, and I like to go where I want to go, and I like to do what I want to do. So you'll take over, and they're kind of your partner at that point too, and you kind of control it. So I always like to be the driver. The driver kind of initiated everything. It took over the call or the stop or whatever we were doing. So,
But it's nice to have that backup behind you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a fair fight to me is 3-1, and that's the mentality I have as a police officer. I feel like 3-1 is a fair fight and sometimes too, when you have a partner, we would make a traffic stop and I would be talking to the driver and he's over on the passenger side. They never knew he was there. And he's seeing stuff and he's signaling me to he'll do the motion of like two wrists together. And that means hook them up. And they're not even, or he'll say a code to me. It's like some kind of code, and a code that we know, and you get them out of the car, and then you're arresting them, and they're like, "What are you arresting me for?" And they don't even, because I didn't see it, or I didn't see them drop a gun.
So if they ask you, you're like, "I don't know, but let's ask
I'm like,
him."
"Hey, you'll get out." So I just say, "Get out of the car," and I don't tell them why. And I trust my partner enough, to know that he has something. I'm not going to sit here and go, "Well, why?" And that's one thing too in my department is, I may not like you as a person or a police officer, or maybe a personality conflict. But the one good thing is if you tell me, hey, I got something, I need you to help me, I'm going to help you.
Yeah.
And we're always going to come to each other and we always back each other. And that's why I really like our department is backup is coming. And that sweet sound of sirens, if you're in a situation, a bad situation, or a situation I was in, a helicopter was over the top of me and it was getting so low because no one was there to help me and they were fixing to land that thing to come help me. So
wow.
You get guys that, are devoted and sometimes guys get lazy and, I'm guilty of this where I'm like, I don't really want to go over there and help him out, and it's stupid. And sometimes I'm like, I need to go over there.
Yeah.
So at least I drive up and I'm like, hey man, thumbs up. All right, you're good. And that tells me, hey, you're okay. And sometimes when you do that, I feel like that bad guy in that car sees the second car like, you know what? It's not worth it today because this guy's he's got two people back there. There's two guns back there for sure, and that's reassurance that guy's going to go home safe. And that's the most important thing. And how I taught my rookies was it was you, your partners, the citizens, the city, or the bad guys, or the city, then the bad guys. So you took care of yourself first. If you had like a weird feeling, I'm not going down that street. Something's not right.
Yeah.
Okay, don't do it. And your partners, help your partners out. Didn't help the city. Okay, look out for you. It's just a job. It pays your bills. You don't have to go in that dark room right there if you don't want to. Wait a second, wait for a partner to get there, and then you go together because the confidence is there. You rely on them. And we're trained enough to where we know that we can kind of work off of each other.
Yeah.
Whether or not I work with this guy, that guy, I never met this guy before, like, hey, we're doing this. And you just go. And we're trained good enough to where they do the same thing you do. So there's very few people in my department that I feel like are going to try to accidentally kill me. Everybody else is pretty level-headed and they make pretty good decisions. And we rely on each other enough to go, hey, how about you take a moment, chill out, kind of walk away from the situation. You come in and take over. The good cop, bad cop mentality where you're not getting along with this guy. How about I take over and we go a different approach? And that's a good way of doing things too, because you can take that pressure off that person because there's a lot of people out there that like me that, and there's a lot, and there's some like my partner Bully and I, he was the smoother guy. I was more radical. I was more like, no, we're doing this. Like you're going to jail. I don't give a crap about what you're doing. You're going to jail. And they get irritated. And, Bully would come up and like, hey man, relax, it's okay. And at first it kind of sucked, but then I realized, hey, that's a good way of doing it. Yeah. Because, we're getting to the process, and then I learned over the years to just calm down. It's not a crusade. It's a job and you're just out here to do it, and I enjoy it. A lot of times I like, it's still fun to me, but sometimes it isn't, but it's just a job, and it's been one of the greatest shows that I've got to be a part of. So
greatest show on earth.
Yeah, it is, no doubt.
With that, we would like to thank you for listening to the Salty Sarge Podcast. Check us out on Facebook or anywhere else you find your favorite podcast. We will see you in the next one.
Next time, keep your powder dry.